Well, let's get more on this now with Josh Young. He is the Chief Investment Officer at Bison Interests, an oil and gas equity investment firm, and joins us via Skype now from Houston, Texas. Thanks very much for being with us, Josh. Consumers are already feeling the pain of this at the gas pumps since the war began. Is this move likely to add to that?
Yeah, and frankly, oil prices could go a lot higher from here to the extent that Russian oil is successfully embargoed.
What's the impact of this going to be on Russia, since the intention is to hurt Russia's economy?
Yeah, I mean, ironically, it might not hurt Russia that much. So if Russia gets to export, let's say, a third less of their oil, and if they have to take a discount on it, but if oil prices are much higher, they might actually net positive on the oil side and similar on other commodities.
And we mentioned there the IMF saying, offering dire warnings for what this means for the global economy, and previous oil spikes often lead to a larger recession. Could the same happen this time, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible. I think one thing that we lose track of is how much inflation there's been since the last time oil prices were anywhere close to this high. And so if you look at it on an inflation adjusted basis, you'd be looking at oil close to $200 a barrel to be equivalent to the price that it got to in 2008. And frankly, the world economy is a lot stronger and a lot bigger since then, and it's a lot less oil dependent. So you could actually see oil prices go a lot higher before causing a recession and before you see demand destruction.
And is all of this likely to be short term, or should people be prepared for high oil prices and therefore higher gas prices for some time to come?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that this is not short term. There's always the possibility of a short term pullback after prices rise as much as they have, as quickly as they have. But there were these dynamics going on. There was a long downturn for oil and way too much underinvestment in oil over the last, let's say, 7 years. And there were very harsh government policies in the US, Canada, and elsewhere that were diminishing oil investment and oil production. And so this is kind of the result of that. Obviously, the Russian invasion of Ukraine was a catalyst and brought this forward. But this was something that was going to happen anyway. Oil was going to go to all-time highs kind of regardless.
So if we try to look for perhaps a silver lining in all of this, will this speed up efforts towards renewable energy, in other words, electric vehicles?
It could speed up efforts, but I think people have been sold a bill of goods on that. So a lot of these technologies don't work quite how they're supposed to. And let's say, for example, electric vehicles, the manufacturing, distribution, repair, and replacement of these vehicles takes up almost as much oil as the oil that's consumed from a normal gas-powered vehicle through the life of the vehicle. So I think it actually doesn't really work so well. And I think if you look at Europe and the situation they're in now, after much more heavy alternative energy investment, I mean, there's still a risk of gas running out in Germany right now, despite huge alternative energy investment.
And just finally, I know you're not a political analyst, but people often tend to blame the government that's in power at the time when there's high gas pump prices. You think the same is going to happen here? They could, despite what's happening in the world beyond the United States, they'll essentially blame it on the government.
Well, in this case, I think they deserve it. And I think what's happened in terms of these sanctions and the way that the U.S. has navigated all of this and the West has navigated this, we were going to have higher prices. We were going to have a lot of inflation coming out of COVID due to bad policies around COVID and due to bad policies around alternative energy versus traditional energy. So all of this was happening. Ukraine is kind of a convenient excuse at this point for oil prices being higher and for inflation. And so I think in this case, it is actually the government's fault to a large extent. And, it's really unfortunate if you have bad policies, you end up with bad outcomes and bad consequences.
Good to get your analysis on this. Josh Young joining us there from Houston, Texas. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.